Hello everyone, and welcome to this Uska News Water News video podcast. In November 2016, the first Global Water Stewardship Forum met in Scotland, the Hydro Nation, convened by the Alliance for Water Stewardship. Experts from more than 20 countries met in sunny Edinburgh for 2 full days with representatives from governments, large and small corporations, NGOs, finance and civil society. The forum was designed to advance global understanding and impacts of water stewardship and contribute to the further development of the global AWS Water Stewardship Standard. Uska News reported on the forum, and I had an opportunity to speak to several key participants. Welcome to Edinburgh, Sanjib Bezbaroa. Can I ask you to introduce yourself to our viewership and tell us what brings you to the forum this week?
You got my name, Sanjib Bezbaroa, and I'm the Executive Vice President, Corporate Environment, Health and Safety of ITC Limited. ITC Limited is a $9 billion USD turnover Indian conglomerate. We started off as a tobacco company around 100 years ago, and today we are much beyond that. And we are among the largest in pulp and paper, in super luxury hotels, in foods, in printing and packaging. So the business has diversified a lot, but it remains an organization which is to a large extent dependent on agro-commodities as its raw material, which is for its pulp and paper, for its foods business, for our agro exports, for our tobacco business. And obviously when you're working in a country like India, which is a water-stressed country for large parts of it, significantly dependent on the monsoons which come in during a very short window, it's obvious that we would have an interest in water. And for actually quite several decades now, we have been working with farmers in terms of addressing their water challenges. And around, I think, 65% of Indian agriculture is still rain-fed agriculture. So there's no irrigation as such. It is just rain-fed agriculture. So we work with these poorest of farmers to actually, we start off by building the the village level institutions, which are necessary to look after the physical infrastructure of watershed management, the rainwater harvesting structures and the check dams and all the infrastructure work that we do. And it is work that we've been actually partnering with several state governments, federal governments in carrying out these activities. And today they cover over 269,000 hectares of land in India. So it's pretty big work, and it's work which has significantly impacted positively the life of the poorest of farmers that we source our raw materials from. And this you have to understand in the context that in India, a corporate can't go in, buy land and start doing farming. So we have to source from the farmers. This being that, I got introduced to AWS when I was nominated as a member of the International Standard Development Committee. I was part of that team. And it was this introduction to the AWS standard which really gave us this insight that there was something which we could do at the unit level. Because while we were doing it in the areas where we were procuring crops from, our units, which are also manufacturing units which are scattered all around the country, you are kind of dependent on surface water or on groundwater. And while you could do something within the premises, it obviously would not be impactful enough. But this AWS standard really gave us that whole idea that you could really be part of the solution. And I think this was a real game changer for us. And we initiated work around one of our factories, which is the largest pulp and integrated paper mill in the country. And we commissioned the International Water Management Institute to carry out the study. So we out of that study, we understood what is catchment level water accounting. We also realized that almost 95% of the water withdrawals in a catchment is essentially agricultural demand, and industry accounts for something like very often less than 2%, which has been substantiated by other studies that we've carried out across the country. But despite having such a low impact on withdrawals, the point is that we can have a large impact on the overall water scenario security in that catchment. So the work in first of all is that based on an outcome of that study, the management agreed that around all our units which are located in identified water stressed areas, we would follow this concept of ensuring water security for all stakeholders. And the work is very much in progress. We work along with NGOs and other civil society organizations in terms of working with the farmers to help reduce agricultural demand. We do the necessary work to augment supply, whether it is in terms of soil treatment, whether it is in terms of recharge structures, whether it is in terms of rejuvenating earlier infrastructure which existed. So this is on, and we did not look at certification because we were more concerned about what is the intent of the standard, and we thought that let's have a few projects on, let's understand what it involves before we get to a formal process of certification. But recently we put up 2 of our sites for registration. We want to do the certification to understand what it would involve. And right now I'm part of the technical committee of the AWS. So I guess there is an opportunity here for us to positively, tweak the standards if necessary, based on the learnings that will come from all these projects that we are doing and others are doing, so that it really becomes actually an implementable standard.
And it's very good to have ITC and a number of other very large corporates represented at this forum, and to corporates where clearly there is buy-in to the concept of water stewardship at the C-level leadership, not just as a CSR afterthought.
Absolutely.
But it'll be good if we come back here in 2 years' time and there are a lot more corporates. How do you educate senior private sector leaders about the importance of water stewardship as a business necessity?
Are you talking within ITC, or are you talking about outside?
There are lots of corporates who are not here and who think of water, oh sure, that's a CSR issue. How do you educate them differently?
See, the understanding of what the AWS standard intends to achieve, I think it's important to understand that. We're not just talking about something that you would just clip on to whatever you do. But this is something, if you're in a water stressed area, I think it's essential for survival. I mean, if you don't look at water security, we are reasonably certain that it's going to impact your survivability. So I think people who understand that issue now need to realize that as of now, this is the only approach which exists to be able to address that risk. And if you address a risk, it's also an opportunity for you to kind of get competitive advantage, to position yourself. I mean, those are the value propositions that private sector organizations will have to look at. What we are trying to do is, what we will do is, once these pilots are implemented, or these projects, I will not say pilots because they're full-scale projects, these projects are implemented, all this information will be in the public domain. So I think it would serve as an opportunity for other corporates who are interested in exploring these avenues to learn from there, and we would certainly be willing to share. I mean,
Will,
whatever.
will that educational process be easier in water stressed regions?
I would imagine so. I would imagine so, yes. Because, I mean, when I say water stress, it's both in terms of quality as well as quantity. So there are areas which are quality stressed significantly, but there are also areas where quantity is there, but quality is a problem. So even there, the AWS approach is perfectly the right one.